The leather chair in the hallway of Pierce Industries headquarters was deliberately uncomfortable, a subtle message to those deemed unworthy of the mahogany-lined boardroom beyond those double doors. I could hear my brother Michael's booming voice through the walls, presenting his latest plan to save our family's struggling manufacturing empire. "Our mystery investor arrives in 20 minutes, he announced to the board. "And believe me, after they see these projections, they'll have no choice but to invest." I checked my Timex watch, another point of family contention. "Why wear that when we offered you a Rolex?" my mother had asked at last year's Christmas party. They never understood that some of the world's wealthiest people wore simple watches. It was about knowing your worth, not showing it. The morning had started with Michael's usual condescension. "Wait in the hallway," he'd smirked, adjusting his custom-made Italian suit. "This is for serious investors only. We can't have you embarrassing us in front of the billion-dollar investor." Our father, CEO Thomas Pierce, had simply nodded in agreement. "Son, this is beyond your capabilities. Why don't you go work on your little online store?" Little did they know that my little online store had revolutionized industrial supply chain management. While they were running our family's manufacturing business into the ground with outdated methods and bloated overhead, I'd built a digital marketplace that connected manufacturers directly with suppliers, eliminating middlemen and reducing costs by 60%. The company I'd created, SupplyChain.ai, was now worth $12 billion, all hidden behind layers of holding companies and investment firms. Not a single person in my family knew that their desperately needed mystery investor was sitting in their hallway, wearing a simple blue suit and a Timex watch. "Sarah," Michael called to his secretary, "bring in the latest financial reports. And get my brother some coffee or something. Keep him occupied." Sarah, a recent Harvard Business School graduate who'd chosen Pierce Industries over better offers because of the family name, hurried past me with an apologetic smile. She'd been the only one to actually read my proposal 6 months ago about modernizing the company's supply chain. "Your brother's ideas were brilliant," she'd whispered after one board meeting. "The cost savings alone would have turned everything around." But Michael had dismissed the proposal without even opening it. "We don't need advice from someone who couldn't even finish business school." The truth was, I had finished business school at MIT, focusing on digital transformation while building my company. But they'd stopped listening to me long before that, back when I first suggested that the future of manufacturing lay in digital integration and automated supply chains. My phone buzzed, a message from my investment team. "Everything in place. Target company's stock down 60% over past year. Current market cap, $400 million. Acquisition cost estimate, $600 million. Proceed." I smiled, remembering last month's family dinner when my father had proudly announced that Pierce Industries was still worth at least $2 billion. The market thought differently, and soon they'd learn just how badly they'd mismanaged their inheritance. Through the boardroom doors, I could hear the desperation in Michael's voice as he presented his turnaround plan. The same tired strategies that had failed for the past 5 years. Cost-cutting through layoffs, selling off non-core assets, and seeking traditional bank financing. "Pierce Industries has been in our family for 4 generations, he declared. "We just need an injection of capital to modernize our operations." I pulled out my tablet, reviewing the real numbers my team had compiled. Outdated manufacturing processes costing 40% above industry standard, supply chain inefficiencies adding another 30% to costs, and a management structure so top-heavy it consumed most of the remaining profits. The tablet itself was another source of family mockery. "Real businessmen use paper and pen," my father always said. "All this tech nonsense is just a distraction." Sarah emerged from the boardroom carrying an empty coffee cup. "They're ready for the investor presentation," she whispered. "But your brother says you should probably go home. He doesn't want any distractions." I nodded, pretending to gather my things. "How bad is it really in there?" She glanced around before answering. "Bad. The banks won't extend any more credit. 3 major suppliers are threatening to cut us off. And the pension fund is seriously underfunded. Without this investor." She left the sentence unfinished. What she didn't know was that my company had already bought the suppliers' debts and the bank loans. Pierce Industries was effectively already mine. They just didn't know it yet. My phone buzzed again. Market reaction positive to potential Pierce Industries acquisition. Stock up 5% on rumors of mystery investor. I thought back to the day 3 years ago when I'd first presented my digital transformation plan to the board. Michael had laughed openly. E-commerce? Artificial intelligence? This is manufacturing, little brother, not some Silicon Valley fantasy. Dad had been more diplomatic but equally dismissive. Son, our family has built this company the traditional way for 4 generations. We don't need internet gimmicks to tell us how to run our business. Now their traditional way had brought Pierce Industries to the brink of bankruptcy. Their only hope was the mystery investor they'd mocked for believing in digital transformation. The boardroom doors opened and the company's CFO hurried out, his face pale. The numbers for the investor presentation, they're worse than we thought. Michael followed him, tugging at his tie. It doesn't matter. Once they see the Pierce family name, the heritage, the potential. The potential for what? I asked quietly from my hallway chair. More losses? More failed strategies? He glared at me. What would you know about it? Playing with your computer while real businessmen try to save this company. Why are you even still here? Before I could answer, Sarah burst through the doors, her face flushed with excitement. Sir, the mysterious billion-dollar investor is here. The hallway suddenly filled with board members and executives, all straightening their ties and adjusting their suits. My father emerged last, looking older than his 60 years. Everyone ready, Michael commanded. First impressions are everything. And someone get him out of here. He waved dismissively in my direction. I stood up slowly, straightening my simple blue suit. In my pocket was a phone that controlled more wealth than Pierce Industries had seen in its entire history. In my briefcase were documents that would change everything. The investor is already here, I said quietly. Michael scoffed. What are you talking about? The investor's car just pulled up downstairs. No, Sarah interrupted, checking her tablet. That was just their legal team. The investor. She looked up at me, her eyes widening as understanding dawned. The investor has been here all along. The hallway fell silent. My father stepped forward, his face a mix of confusion and disbelief. What is she talking about? I pulled out my phone, pressed a few buttons, and every tablet and phone in the hallway pinged simultaneously. On their screens appeared a single document. SupplyChain.ai's purchase offer for Pierce Industries, signed by its founder Enzumi. The silence grew deeper. Through the windows I could see the family name in giant letters on the side of the building. The same name that would soon answer to a new owner, one they'd made wait in the hallway. Shall we step into the boardroom? I asked quietly. I believe we have some serious business to discuss. The boardroom's tension was thick enough to cut with a knife as I took my seat, not in my usual corner chair, but at the head of the table. My father stood frozen by the doorway, his face ashen, while Michael paced like a caged animal, his perfect suit now wrinkled from nervous fidgeting. This is a joke, Michael finally exploded, slamming his hands on the mahogany table. SupplyChain.ai is worth billions. There's no way. I opened my briefcase and began laying out documents. Current market valuation, $12.4 billion. Annual revenue, $3.2 billion. Profit margins at 45% compared to industry standard 15%. All built on the digital transformation strategy you laughed at 3 years ago. Sarah, still standing by the door, was rapidly typing on her tablet. It's true, she announced, her voice trembling. SupplyChain.ai's founder and CEO, Alexander Pierce. That's you. The board members began whispering among themselves. These were the same people who'd dismissed my proposals, who'd nodded along with Michael's mockery. Now they were frantically pulling up SupplyChain.ai's statistics on their phones, seeing for the first time who I'd become. How? My father's voice cracked as he finally moved from the doorway. How did you? Remember when you said we don't need internet gimmicks? I kept my voice level, professional. While you were clinging to outdated methods, I built a platform that revolutionized industrial supply chain management. The little online store you mocked now handles 40% of North American manufacturing logistics. Michael's face had turned an interesting shade of purple. Why didn't you tell us? We're family. Family. I pulled up the email he'd sent 6 months ago on the boardroom's main screen. Like when you told me to stop embarrassing the Pierce name with your tech fantasies. Or when you had security escort me out after I warned you about the supply chain crisis. The CFO cleared his throat nervously. Mr. Pierce Alexander, about those quarterly reports. You mean the ones showing Pierce Industries losing $50 million last quarter? I pulled up more documents. Or the hidden losses you've been covering up. My AI systems flagged those discrepancies months ago. The room fell silent again. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows I could see the city skyline, including the gleaming new supply-chain.ai tower, built with just a fraction of my company's profits. The purchase offer is fair, I continued, passing out detailed proposals. 60% above current market value, assumption of all debt and protection for employee pensions. More than generous given the company's condition. My father sank into a chair looking at the numbers. But the Pierce family name will continue, I assured him. But the company will be run my way. Digital transformation, automated supply chains, AI-driven logistics. Everything I tried to tell you about 3 years ago. Sarah stepped forward, tablet in hand. Sir, the press is already reporting rumors of the acquisition. Pierce Industries stock is up 15% on the news. Michael spun around, his expensive tie now completely crooked. You can't do this. I'm the eldest. This company was supposed to be mine. And what have you done with it? I stood up, my patience finally wearing thin. 4 consecutive years of losses. Market share down 60%. Supplier relationships in shambles. The only thing keeping this company afloat was our family name, and even that's not enough anymore. I pulled up more screens showing the company's decline. While you were playing real businessman with your custom suits and corner office, I was building the future. SupplyChain.ai's market cap is now 30 times what Pierce Industries was worth in its prime. The board won't approve this, Michael sputtered, looking around for support. But the board members were all staring at their copies of the proposal, seeing the premium being offered for their nearly worthless shares. They already have, I nodded to Sarah, who displayed the voting results. Proxy votes were collected last week. The only holdouts are family shares, and even there I have Aunt Helen's support. That revelation caused another stir. Aunt Helen, our father's sister, owned 15% of the company. Helen agreed to this? My father asked weakly. She read my proposal, I said simply. Unlike some people in this room. The company's legal counsel spoke up from his corner. The terms are quite favorable given our position. And the technology integration could save. Save it, James, Michael snapped. You're fired. Actually, I interrupted, nobody's fired. Yet. Though management will obviously need restructuring. I looked directly at my brother. Starting at the top. The next hour was a blur of legal documents, signatures and shocked expressions as the reality sank in. Pierce Industries, founded by our great-grandfather, was now effectively a subsidiary of SupplyChain.ai. The company they'd dismissed as a little online store had swallowed their century-old business. As the board members filed out, my father finally spoke again. All this time when we thought you were failing. I was succeeding beyond your wildest expectations, I finished for him. But you were too busy protecting the old way to see the new way rising. Michael stood by the window staring at the SupplyChain.ai tower in the distance. What happens to us? You'll be offered positions in the new organization, I said, gathering my documents. Junior positions where you can learn how modern business actually works. If you choose to accept. Sarah approached with more updates. Sir, the press is requesting statements. And your next appointment, the Johnson Manufacturing acquisition, is in 30 minutes. Johnson Manufacturing? My father's head snapped up. But they're our biggest competitor. We're your biggest competitor, I corrected. Now they're just another outdated company in need of digital transformation. I checked my Timex watch, the same one they'd mocked. And I'm never late for meetings. As I walked out of the boardroom, my boardroom now, I heard Michael mutter, all this time we made him wait in the hallway? Yes, I paused at the door. You did. Consider it a lesson in judging people by appearances. Or in this case by their watch choice. The elevator ride down was quiet. Sarah efficiently updating me on the afternoon schedule. In the lobby, beneath the giant Pierce Industries logo that would soon be changed, I stopped to look back at the empire my great-grandfather had built and my father and brother had nearly destroyed. Should I cancel your family dinner reservation for Sunday? Sarah asked quietly. No, I replied, heading for my Tesla, another investment they'd mocked. Keep it. They should probably start getting used to taking direction from the brother they made wait in the hallway. As I drove past the building, I saw Michael watching from the boardroom window, his world turned upside down by the brother he'd never taken seriously. Sometimes the best revenge isn't making people wait in hallways, it's showing them why they should have invited you into the room in the first place. The future of Pierce Industries would be digital, automated, and AI-driven. And its new owner? He'd be the same person he'd always been, the visionary they'd failed to see, wearing his Timex watch and changing the industry they thought they understood. After all, success isn't just about getting into the room, it's about owning the building.